Thank you for bringing her safely here to us. Thank you that in her lifetime she can see this dome ride again. This great, great blessing called Holio. And it came from a desire on her heart, a quest for the whole self, for wholeness. Her inspiration flowed out of that desire for wholeness. And through great good fortune, it came to rest here on the farm. I want to ask Creator that you get Caroline back safely to her home in Florida, that she have no problem on the road and arrive safely home in Santa Rosa Beach. And I also want to ask that all that we do from here on is a success. That every single beautiful panel that will attach from this main one will fit perfectly and seamlessly, so to speak, and create the beautiful whole that Caroline intends it to be. And I want to ask a blessing on some people now. Unfortunately, Sharon is not here yet, but she was delighted to be invited, and she may yet come. Sharon is the person who accepted Holio Dome. When Caroline came to the Eco Village in 2004 and asked, but Albert said no, asked Roberta, and Roberta said no, asked Sharon. And Sharon said yes. And that's why it was installed at the school. And of course we know the history of how that panned out. But that was a good thing. Because this is where it really wants to be and needs to be. Down the road is the Farm Historical Society and Museum. It's a work in progress. And one day it will be our museum and history, archival, our place for our history. And this is also history. So bless Sharon. I want to bless Kenny, because Kenny, actually, he's made it all happen, because he kept the crews organized and coming day after day until it reached the point where it now is. I want to bless Jason for the genius of his work on it. This was a wreck, the geodome. A tree fell and it was a wreck. And he painstakingly put it together. Plus, he designed a stairwell that keeps the curve of the circle. And there's no telling how we would have gotten in the last time we had to crawl in. But we're too old to crawl, some of us. So this was a perfect solution. I better pick up some speed because there goes the evening sun. Pat Montaigne, where is Pat? There you are. Pat Montaigne.
In the
He
sky.
was the first person that I came to say, design us a roof to cover this. And we sat down and he came up with a six-sided, I think, triangle. It would have been a beautiful thing, a triangle. But we didn't get far with that because Kenny said, they make things like this already made. And we looked into it and we bought one. It's called a house dome. You may notice that the windows are all on the first story, but there's a second story. But the Chinese kept it. We said, you keep the second story and your staircase. But that's what they sell them for. Mark, along with Pat and Vicky, has the longest history of helping Holyoke here on the farm. And you will get to see one day a video of bare-chested Mark in 2004 or 5 putting wide lead on the edges of a panel and saying that it was the coolest thing going on the farm.
I saw some video. Yeah.
I want to honor Raven and Vico. They did the masonry here, and neither one is here. They're in California, but we know that we're doing this. Andre, he came to us late, but he helped an awful lot. He was invited too. Oh, it's Vicky? Yeah. Now we come to the lady. Fuse. We were learning from a national stained glass artist. We were doing just fine. One day, gone, without a word. Just gone. Where did she go? I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know. She lives in Nashville, but how do you find her? She didn't answer email. And Fuse arrived. And I was looking for you to do this work before you even moved here, because you came to a graduate. And my friend Susan ran up to me.
She did. She brought me an email.
Yeah. And it was maybe a couple of years before that actually started happening. But I want to honor Kayla because she learned quickly under the tutelage of Fuse how to repair the cracks. We cannot have cracks, must not have any. And now, at this point, we don't have any.
I don't think so. There might be a few small pieces that have little cracks that we didn't feel like were absolutely worth repairing, but
Nobody will know.
I know, they're so little though, so we didn't think that those were a big deal, but all the big cracks, I think we got them all.
I want to honor you, Heather, because you came at a time when the dome was coming down, but you knew how important it was, and you videotaped some of us in it, talking about it before it came down, and you were extremely concerned about it, and also went to take the stained glass class from Ricky Turner. I took it also, and so did Vicky. The three of us trained with Ricky, a local artist. Rose, there you are. Rose, likewise, was present with the takedown, and also extremely helpful in numbering the panels and photographing each one as they came down. And always concerned, and she drove us, myself and Rose, to Caroling last February so that we could remind Caroling that we're still working, we haven't quit, we're going to do it. And we had a couple of days with her. It was wonderful. Joel Kaczynski. I didn't know this until yesterday. Caroline told me. But it was Joel that cleared that site at the school. And he did more than that, didn't he?
Yeah, he shored up the land that was slanting, and so he put in some metal panels and he filled the dirt in, so there was a floor.
And he also did some legal work too.
Yes, he made up a...
So he was very important.
He also helped me make forms. I remember being him down in the Eagle Village basement making forms.
Oh, you made all those forms. He made all those those
For
forms
to hold the panels.
to hold all the panels.
Well,
That was a-
Francesco Cassini came along, and we have a nice photo of Francesco. He made the last ring we had. It was still at the school. It's a beautiful ring, and this one is a beautiful ring.
Well, they got a lot of help. That was a team project, pouring it and finishing it. Yeah.
And Tierra McMahon and Louise Lanham. When I was looking for a place to repair the panels without having to give up half of my own living space, I saw the empty greenhouse and it was damaged. A tree had fallen on it and it's glass, and it had broken one of the sections. And Louise said that if I wanted to, I could repair it. Tierra was abroad. And I hired Glenn McCulloch, and he did it right quick. And we moved in, and pretty soon we were just going full tilt with repairs because we had a place to do it. And the reason I picked it was because of the amount of light in it. It's so full of light. And I am getting dim in the eyes, so I needed that light. And I've come to the end of my list, but if any of you can think of other people that I've left off,
Yes, Joe Rizzo, he brought his trailer over and we put the frame on it and brought it down to the Eco Village.
was that recently?
No, at the very beginning, we took it down at the school.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Joe Rizzo. Oh, all right.
And Albert for allowing everything to be stored at the Eco Village.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course.
Everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For years,
Yeah.
taking space down there.
Yeah, that was so important. And I want to remember Rick Diamond as well. Because Rick Diamond felt so strongly about polio when it came down that he did fundraisers and raised it.
I hosted a fundraiser together.
It was over $1,000, wasn't
We
it?
did really well.
I think it was.
Yeah, we had dinner.
And that bought us all this foam for us to make new cradles, because each panel had to have a cradle. And Pat built floor-to-ceiling stacks with chicken wire shelving, which right now are still cradling polio dome. Thanks, Pat. That's great.
Polio had to have a home.
Yeah, it did. Anyway, the entire enterprise is blessed. And we, as a result of being part of it, are very blessed also.
And we can't forget our Mother Goose, Marilyn.
Oh, yes.
For continuing to nudge it along and fund it and love it. And
Keeping us all organized, planning things like this to sort of,
Yeah,
you know,
that was my handle on the New York farm in
Really?
1976.
Mother Goose.
We all had CD handles. That's the
Jim.
one.
I had no idea.
I wasn't talking to
What was your handle?
I did.
Magoose. With that
Magoose.
Now, because the sun just set and we're gonna get cold, we've got to go home. So if you have anything to add or say about it all, how it means to you, and or anybody, any people that have been left out, thank you, Vicki, to Reverend Joe Rizzo. This is a good time to do it. All these vibrations they're collecting up there in that one panel. Yeah, panel number 1. So, let's do our singing bowl, and that will conclude our blessing way. And thank you very much, all of you, everyone here, for coming.
I have no idea how this is gonna sound with the acoustics in there, so
Psychedelic.
let's see.
there is one more person to thank. It's my late husband, Larry McIntyre. And the way that went down was that he died in his sleep 10 years ago and left me a house in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And having no interest in that town, I went north a couple hours and I bought a little condo in Taos, a town that I had been a young hippie in at a county called Buffalo in 1970. And I never lived in it. I let my hippie friends live in it. And then my daughter Evie said, Mom, it's time to go decide what to do with your condo. We went out and she said, you're never going to live in it. How do you have it? Crazy to you. Why don't you get a house in Mexico, a vacation house in Mexico? I said, oh, I like that idea a lot. So I called up Albert within an hour. What's your island like? Isla Holbox in Yucatan. Oh, it's wonderful. There's no cars, only bikes and golf cars. I said, ooh. And I went and looked at it, and I loved it. And then I realized it's going underwater because it's only 1.5 miles wide, it's 26 miles long, and the streets are made of sand. It's going under. I said, nope, can't do that. So then it occurred to me the next thing that I should invest in was this. And that's how that happened, but thanks to Larry, it really, he's the, shouldn't have been the last person to thank, but never the last. Yeah. Shall we say one holy om to close?
Thank you, Marilyn. Big thanks to you. Let's all thank Marilyn for all she's done.
Thank you.
Thank you.